Greetings all, this is Dickie Adams with PocketNow.com, and today we're going to take a look at the hardware on the Samsung Galaxy Tab 7.7 from Verizon. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show. So first off, this 7.7 inch display, this Super AMOLED display, is absolutely brilliant. Colors look really good on it, and the color accuracy is really strong compared to a lot of the other devices that I've used out there, especially for tablets. It can be hit and miss for that sort of content. And using some of the relative pictures that I use in other reviews, comparing them to this particular tablet with its color capabilities, I have to say that the results have been very pleasing with color accuracy. It's hard to see here in this lighting and with this camera because we're getting some white adjust as well from it, but really the color accuracy is pretty decent. It still has some suffers from a little more blue tint than expected, just like the Samsung Galaxy S2. But overall, I like the screen brightness and the blacks and the density of the colors and the pixels. It just looks really good on this 7.7 inch screen, and it's really easy to read text. You do have to do a little bit of zooming in because the screen isn't as large, but in the hand I do really like a 7-inch form factor. One thing I found though is that it's got a tiny bezel. Now in the past I've always said that a bezel can be problematic, but in this case, or rather the large bezel being problematic. In this case, the bezel being too small makes it a little difficult for my largish hands when holding on to it to try to read a book. And with the back being a little slick without much grip here, it actually makes it a little hard to hold on to, and there's no place to really rest your finger without, at least with my large fingers, without resting them on the screen, which then will cause problems if you're reading a book or that sort of thing. Going this way, holding it with two hands, no problem. It really comes down to holding it in the portrait mode rather than landscape. Now, turning it to between here and there, between portrait and landscape, you can see how slowly this display turns. And it's really surprising because with this dual-core processor, 1.4 gigahertz, Exynos processor, it should be a lot faster than that. And I tried loading up a different launcher to see if it was the skin that Samsung had put on this that's causing the problem, and it's really just the same. Even the widget, without any widgets on there, I'm finding like the screen rotation and just the way that sometimes things pop up, that it's just really sluggish. Now that could be due to Honeycomb, but I've used other Honeycomb devices that don't seem to perform so sluggishly. Now, once you're in an app and you're actually like scrolling around through things, I found that it's pretty snappy device. Opening up Netflix and watching content and playing games, it really is a snappy device, and the Quadrant and LinPack and Tutu scores are all really very high for this device, so it's a powerhouse of a machine. It just doesn't feel like a powerhouse machine, especially when you compare it to your phone or an iPad or other devices. We'll get back to more comparisons later. Volume rocker on the side is easy enough to find. I have found a little trouble finding the power button. I have a tendency to slide my finger up the side of the case looking for the button there. And then looking at the bottom of the connector, the speakers are plenty loud enough, even by themselves playing Netflix movies. It's been very nice. And while I don't like proprietary connectors, it seems to be the way that most folks are going, especially with Samsung and Apple. So no complaints there, other than you have to carry around a special cable, and you don't get to use a standard micro USB as expected. On the side here, one of the things that Apple does not have that this device does is easily accessible micro SD card slot, and then it does have the LTE device because this is for Verizon, LTE in this SIM card slot here. We mentioned in the unboxing that this device had a small dent in it, and we'll try to get that in focus there. This is the way this device came unboxed. You know, it is a review unit, so I imagine it's been used before. But as you can see there, it did take a ding pretty well, and not something I would have expected from this casing, but it is, you know, rather thin metal. We also talked about the fact that on the back here there isn't much pop and movement, although right here is a little bit of squish. I notice on the front of the screen, however, there is a little more flex. I don't know if you can hear that clicking there. And when you twist the device, it's got some noticeable click and pop as well. Otherwise, it's put together very well. I do like the, you know, slightly beveled edges. Back on the front of the device, we've got the 2 megapixel front-facing camera. It takes 2 megapixel style pictures. And on the back, we've got the 3 megapixel rear-facing camera with a flash. Unfortunately, this camera is pretty miserable. Even, especially the white balance is really off, especially if you use the flash. I took a couple pictures just before starting this particular review, and the colors were really yellow when the flash was used. And if I set the white balance to fluorescent, then the colors came out correctly, and those pictures will be in the final review. The Samsung Galaxy Tab 7.7 from Verizon has a 5100 milliamp hour battery. Found that the battery life has been very good. It lasts as long as I would expect it to for this style of device. It doesn't seem to last as long as, say, the iPad, but that's unsurprising, especially with the LTE radio in it. Got 1 gig of RAM and 16 gigs of storage. The usable space on this device, we scroll there. So we've got a total space of 12.67 gigs, and maybe a little difficult to see that in this picture. And you can see what we've got loaded up here, and then we've got an insert SD card option down at the bottom. As mentioned in the unboxing, it's got Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and the standard set of sensors and calibration capabilities, the gyroscope and the compass and GPS, etc. It also has, as we talked about on the review, this IR port, if I can find it, that we'll talk about a little more in the software review, but it does work very well with the devices that I tested with it. Kind of a surprising addition for this style of device. While I've only been able to test the standard speeds, not the LTE speeds, the 3G speeds from Verizon are right on par with what expected. I'm hoping to be able to get up to the LTE area, and I'll post some reviews on that speed after the fact if it doesn't go up before the time of the review. Really, I'm excited to see more devices like this, the 7.7 inch size. They work very well, and I'm really hoping that Ice Cream Sandwich comes out for this soon, and hopefully that will resolve some of the stability issues. I had the camera crashing just a few minutes ago. We'll talk more about that in the software review. But really, this device just needs something to make it a little more appealing and a little more snappy, because compared to a lot of the other devices that are on the market today, it just doesn't fit the price point that's coming in for a 7.7 inch device and being so sluggish. We'll get more into that with the comparisons as well. That wraps up our hardware tour for the Samsung Galaxy Tab 7.7 from Verizon. If you have any comments, please leave them below. If you like the video, please give us a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.